Okay, I would like to actually I joined Urban Sketchers 7 years ago, and actually I started because I love the idea of having a lot of people sketching together. And in fact, I was actually kind of looking forward to the show and tell, because from the show and tell, I can actually get inspired by different work from different members. And also, I learned quite a lot along the way actually from the past 7 years. And in fact, I start to know a lot of very, very good sketchers, and I admire their work. Like there are a few, like one of them is KK from Penang, and also like people like Queen and also more. And I always follow them on the Instagram. And this is how actually I slowly came to join this community, or rather to say it as a family. Okay. I started actually sketching, joining them sketching, but with a very simple setting, like a pencil drawing with a light wash. And because that time I tried to travel light, very simple. And so these are some of my sample of my sketches. Some of the buildings actually are no longer around in Singapore because of the redevelopments, and I thought it's quite meaningful. I managed to keep some of the images with me. Yes. This was my first watercolor sketch. A little bit not so confident, as you can see. Very light washes, but I enjoyed the process, and also first time of using watercolor for my sketches. This is actually one of the temples in Singapore. Again, I also try to use the watercolor as a main medium for my sketch. Nature. Nature is actually one of the three factors that influence my arts. One of them is cat. The other one is toy. I'm a toy collector, and I love nature as well. So these are the three things that always accompany me through my art journey. And somehow they provide a lot of inspiration along the way. I would like to show you some of the samples. This was done in Batu Ferringhi Beach. I was attending one of the sketch walk, and then subsequently I went to Batu Ferringhi for one of the few more relaxed nature trip. This was actually a yacht club in Changi, Singapore. Showcase quite a lot of interesting colors and shape and line. I love trees. I draw a lot of trees. This is one of the samples. I draw bird nest fern, staghorn fern, different type of plants, and they always give me a lot of inspiration, I should call. And also I learn a lot through interacting with the nature, and I also keep myself very stress-free, because it's always very nice to let myself wander in the nature. This was done in Singapore is surrounded by beaches, surrounded by sea, so it's very easy for us to access. So one of the very regular spots that we do sketching together is actually West Coast. This is one of the angle that we can see a lot of boat from the quite a short distance, quite a near distance. Architecture. I like old houses. I don't know why. Since I'm getting a bit older, and I start to like things that are a bit nostalgic. And I like old city like Penang, Ipoh, Hanoi. And from my travel experience, I start to actually realize that actually architecture play a very important part to showcase people's culture, people's stories, and people's living space. So I would like to share some of my architectural sketches. This was actually one of the entrance museum to Ho Chi Minh. I think it's the National Museum. It was influenced heavily by French architecture. This is actually from my hometown. I never liked red houses since I was young, because it never grew on me. When I see a lot of tourists coming, and then I wonder why people are so fascinated by the red houses. And then to me, it's like, since young, every day I pass by the area, and I do not actually have any special feeling. But recently, I went back and I start to wander around, and I keep telling myself, what if one day all this building disappeared because of some of the redevelopment program again? So I start to pick up my brush and start to record some of the building. And this is one of the typical red houses in Malacca. In Singapore, I like to wander in an old street, selling a lot of those junk stuff, old stuff. They are actually quite interesting because they still have a lot of original grill system, a lot of original architectural feature. So this is one of my favorite subjects. When I'm in Singapore, I always draw them. This is one of the old wooden houses in Malacca. It's called Jalan Tukang Emas, where a lot of people went there olden day to actually buy gold accessory and to alter their gold accessory. So recently I went back and I start to also record some of them. This is done in Penang. I like LP, and this is called Angel Record. And I like the shop houses very much, so I drew them. And previous trip I went back to Penang again, and I actually realized that it is actually became a boutique hotel. So Angel Record no longer there. A bit sad, but then I feel very lucky is that I actually had the image with me and I had the memory with me. Yes. Some of the interesting architecture actually is so inspiring that it actually made me did some of the sketches with a very different layout. For instance, this is the one. I kind of like the arch and all that, so I created the very unusual layout. I don't know why, but I like this piece very much. Yes. This is one of the typical example where old houses converted into the new restaurant or boutique hotel. But as long as they are nicely renovated, normally I will still draw them because they are beautiful, and I don't actually very biased about anything as long as they are beautiful and I would like to record them. This is the Singapore Art Museum entrance. It was formerly a school, and it was some churches before or something like that, and then it has a very interesting character of the arches and the sculpture and all the details. Malacca. I like Malacca River, and there's a lot of cafe, very nice building, and I'm actually quite into building with a red brick and building with a very bare finishing like this building, and I'm very inspired. So I drew them as well in one of my trips. Cityscape. Cityscape is actually most challenging subject for myself because it encompasses a lot of things, a lot of building. And normally I can only do it if I am having a luxury of good hotel room view, or or I'm on top of some cafe or rooftop garden. I will have a chance, and then I will try to do cityscape. This is the first one I did in Taipei from my little hotel, fourth story I think. So I look around and I realized that there's a lot of interesting rooftop and spaces around me. And while I was sketching, I can actually imagine how these people live inside and then how they interact with their life, the space interacting with their life. And it's pretty interesting. And I did it with a pencil and watercolor as well. This is actually, I'm sure quite a lot of you know this place, Star Ferry Terminal in Hong Kong. Yeah, I did it in a cold wind in the mid of February or March. It was very cold. But I thought it was so beautiful, and I decided to stay by the bank and then complete the sketch. This is a very interesting house or building in Hong Kong. I think it's in San Shui Po. I like the texture, I like the character, and I like the combination of the building. So I also did this as well. Junction of Ho Chi Minh is pretty challenging to sketch in the city of Ho Chi Minh because they have a very narrow pathway, And then a lot of time when you do sketching, you have to move yourself to let the motorcycle to squeeze in between you. But it was a very nice experience because from there you can interact with the local and then you can start to have a conversation and you know a lot more about the local surrounding. So it's also very nice experience. This is from my hotel room in Ho Chi Minh as well. I realized that one thing about them is that they are very, very into nature, into greenery. I see a lot of balcony, they grew a lot of plant, and then on top of the building, they have a lot of activities. They dry their clothes there, they grow their vegetable there, and even they rear the chicken above the rooftop. So I thought it was amazing. It was like, oh, I can never see it in Singapore. So I decided to also record this, and it's part of my memory. Okay, this is Singapore. Singapore is a modern city, and this is in the financial hub, whereby you see a lot of modern building, but actually if you look into that setting, it has a lot of interesting line overlapping. And sometimes when I finish the sketch, I feel like I'm actually doing some kind of like semi-abstract drawing. It's just like a very interesting line, interesting color, and it's mixed together. Like a weaving of the very nice carpet or basket or something like that. Okay, sometimes when I caught in between the urban jungle, I do not know what to sketch, and I always look out for an obscure corner where sometimes you can find a little gem that hidden there. This is one of the typical example. A little gap in between the buildings, and whereby behind that gap, inside the gap, it actually showcase a different layer of building. So I thought that's quite interesting. So I don't believe that we do not have anything to sketch. As long as you look around, there will always be something interesting to sketch. This is done in the hotel suite in the Fairmont Hotel, because actually I was very lucky because one of my friends on the business trip, so she said, oh, I will be in the office whole day, you can use my hotel suite, whatever, you can draw there, you can use my bathtub, whatever. So I was there, and I spent about 3.5 hours to get a feel. This is one of them, because only from the top floor or rather high floor of Fairmont Hotel, you can see the entire MBS with the sky tree behind and with the port and the ship behind. So it's a very rare chance for me to sketch this. Okay, another thing I like about me is that I like food. I like to drink very nice latte. So in Singapore, every week we have a little gathering. So we will do cafe sketching. We sketch about our food, about anything happen in a cafe. If the cafe has a very nice setting, we will draw that setting. If the cafe has a very interesting lighting or very dim, so I will draw the mood itself rather than the structure. Of course, we draw food, and you know, when it comes to food, right, it's rather challenging because it's very simple. All the cake are placed in the oval or round saucer, and if you draw day in, day out, you begin to think about how to make the composition interesting. So I created something like a negative space and also a bit of a frame at the back, so to make the whole composition more interesting, more challenging, and it's more interesting to look at. Some of the nice decorating items in a cafe, or even the mosaic tile of a certain cafe where they have a very authentic mosaic tile, mosaic design, so we will cut that as well. Sometimes we are hungry, we'll draw it very fast. This is a result of sketching very fast because we are very hungry. We have to complete it soon and then to eat. This is a typical setting where we can actually borrow the prop from the cafe owner, and then we put them together as a kind of like still life, and from there we will do the sketching, and then we'll study the composition and things like that. Special food, special packaging. One day I realized that when I saw the aluminum foil, I told myself, why don't I try to do the aluminum foil, because aluminum foil can be very complex. If you are overdoing it. So I was kind of like trying to do it in such a way that it is reflecting the aluminum foil surface but not overdoing it, not with the over exaggerated details. Very princess-like, a lot of nice teapot and nice decorating items. So yeah. Okay, mini sketchbook. For some of you who actually follow my Instagram account, you start to see I started using a very small sketchbook. The reason why I like the sketchbook, this is the size of the sketchbook, and I'm actually having fun working on this sketchbook because I find it's very intimate. It's very close to me. And then when you start to draw a very small thing, you're actually forcing people to focus on the detail. So when I show this sketch to you, you go, oh, okay, it's so small. I will try to locate the detail. So I find it's very interesting. This was done in Urban's Asian Link Sketchwalk in Bangkok, in one of the old towns. Hanoi, the temple and the lake. Again in Hanoi, fruit cellar and the very famous church. Confucius Temple. This is one of the old houses in Penang, and on the right side is actually another old house in Singapore. The reason I have a tendency of drawing the houses by omitting the people, the tree, the car, and all the surroundings items, because I want to make it like a toy. When you look at a small toy, you can have a lot of imagination. You can even imagine when you rotate it, how it looked like from the back. So I thought it was quite fun to work on that. Fruits that I buy from the market, I find it's interesting, so I will sketch them. Or the soup that I boil for myself, I will sketch them. My lotus soup, I can do a very good lotus soup. If you come to my house, I will cook for you. Thank you. This is a cafe in Penang. I have a tendency to draw anything that with a tree creeper plant in front of the facade. I think it's very lovely. So, and I drew this because I was kind of amazed by how the owner actually took care of the plants. So it was very, very nice cafe. I also use this sketchbook to record detail when I visit show or museum or exhibition. Like some of the ornaments that is displayed in the museum. So it's very handy for me. So whenever I feel like sketching, I can always take out and record it down. My sketching tool, I'm a forgetful person, so I don't bring a lot of things. I only bring barang-barang like that. The most important one is a fan, because I'm afraid of warm weather. I use a Bokinford paper a lot. Bokinford 300 gram rough cold press. I use a very simple Chinese calligraphy brush, the very cheap one. You can buy like a few ringgit in Malaysia, any stationery shop. I find that it's quite nice brush to work with. My definition of urban sketches, we always say that urban sketches is the kind of activity that records something. You record a subject, you record a scenery. But for me, urban sketches is actually more than that. It's a kind of like when everybody do sketch, you are putting your artistic input into your sketch. So, and everybody with a different artistic input, it's kind of interesting to see different output, different result, different expression. Some drew it very spontaneously, some drew it very neatly, some drew it very simple, in a very simple manner. So I find it's very inspiring. And urban sketches is not only drawing, it's about the whole total experience. It's about smell, it's about the sound that you hear while you are sketching, it's about the people you meet, it's about the temperature that you are drawing. So it's about everything. It's a kind of like a whole package. Well, I show this picture is that I wanted to share with you is that I'm very much enjoy drawing, and I draw from my angle of a vision, and I hope that you all have their own fun, drawing for your own angle as well. So we come to a question and answer. Any question you want to ask? A lot of people ask me why am I paint so neatly. I just tell them I'm a very patient guy. I cannot paint spontaneously. I guess.
My question. I have actually two questions. Sorry, I have to speak loud.
Sure, no problem. You want to come out here?
Yeah.
Be careful.
Sorry. Yes. So, first question. You have A blood type. Because your drawings are so clear and beautiful. Very accurate.
I can't share my personal data with you. I will tell you later.
And second question. You said that you start drawing buildings because you think they represent culture of a place. And do you think nature of place also represents its identity?
You mean the nature represent identity?
I mean, you said you like drawing trees, so trees.
I always imagine trees, plants have their life of its own. They do not speak, but they somehow provide me a very special connection. I see tree grow, I see flower bloom, I see fruits that ripe and grow a new plant. So, and all these are actually very inspiring for me, and I feel that there's always something that going on, and it's something positive that going on. So that's maybe one of the reasons I like nature too. Any more questions? Yeah. Thank you very much.
I got one last question. Okay. How many cats do you have at home? You seem to like a lot of cats.
I have 9 cats, 9 children.
You should move to Kuching, right?
I work a full-time slave for my 9 cats. They want me to clean their pool, they want food, they want everything, attention, but strangely I never get paid from them. Thank you.
Thank you, William.
Thank you.